Let's do Green Room, which is the latest from Jeremy Saulnier, who, if you remember, made the absolutely riveting Blue Ruin, which I liked very, very much. It's a sort of similarly stripped down, although slightly more expansive feel to it. The plot finds an Arlington punk band. They're on a tour of the Pacific Northwest. We meet them at first when they've fallen asleep in their car, which has gone off into a field, and they've left the engine running. And running out of petrol is a perpetual problem for them. They've also run out of funds, and doesn't look like they're going to be making any money anytime soon to be able to, get their way home, until they are offered a remote backwoods gig in an Oregon roadhouse, playing to the people who are defined as the boots and braces crowd. The people, essentially the boots and braces crowd, meaning the sort of the far right, although they said they're so far right, they're almost far left. So anyway, the first thing they do is they get there, they take one look at the audience, and they decide to antagonize them by opening up their set by playing the Dead Kennedys' Nazi Punks Efforty Jefferty, as I think we're going to refer to.
Very, very
that's
good,
the name of it. Then after the gig, they're hustled backstage, where they stumble upon a crime scene to which they are unwitting witnesses. Next thing you know, they've shut themselves into the titular Green Room. They are surrounded by, on the outside, a group of angry neo-Nazis, and on the inside, a gentleman with a large gun who doesn't want them to go anywhere.
He's got 6 bullets.
For real?
We all go at once.
Christ, hold off a sec.
For what?
We haven't done anything.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. They're called cartridges. The bullet is a part that enters your brain if you keep talking. And this gun only has 5 cartridges, not 6. Because they're big and only 5 fit the cylinder. So please, don't test me.
You're making it worse.
We sit and we wait.
And we die?
Not if you sit and you wait.
So that's the setup, basically sort of totally stripped down, kind of minimalist setup. What follows is then a kind of mashup of ideas and riffs and textures from Assault on Precinct 13, Deliverance. To some extent, there's a nod towards the Siege of Straw Dogs. There's also the kind of strange, alienated feel of something like River's Edge. It's a series of kind of increasingly tense set pieces, broken by these almost random outbursts of violence, which are, I have to say, genuinely shocking. There is one moment, I was reminded of, Wes Craven always used to say when he's making his early movies that actually if you're going to put violence on screen, it needs to be something that's alarming. And there is one moment in this that seemed to refer back to a particular scene from Last House on the Left, in which, in the screening that I was in, the entire audience, myself included, hardened, ex-Fangoria writer and all the rest of it, went, made that kind of involuntary noise. We also have this brilliant performance by Patrick Stewart, who is Darcy, who is the kind of the leader of the group in this, where this roadhouse is. This kind of very sort of sinisterly smooth talking supremacist kind of guy who's actually manipulating everything. He's got a terrifying line in soft spoken threat, assures the group that this won't end well, and indeed we know it won't. But also laced all the way through this, as has always been the case in Saulnier's movies, there is this strong seam of very black humour with pathos added into the mix, particularly as it turns out by the presence of Macon Blair, who, although he's one of the underlings of Patrick Stewart's Darcy, and therefore is on the other side, actually has this haunted gaze. He seems to be somebody who isn't in control of his own circumstances. So what you get is, on the one hand, you get a movie which takes a very, very stripped down idea and takes a simple scenario and plays it out, as fully as it can. On the other hand, you have something which is playing to generic conventions. So, it's absolutely sort of playing to, horror tropes. It's got what's referred to as on-screen gore in it. However, all those outbreaks of, destruction are really startlingly done in a way which never makes them into just something trivial. Actually, one of the reasons that the movie cuts so deep is because those particular explosions are so specific, so personal. And during the course of it, you get to know the characters. And what's interesting is that Saulnier himself has said that, what he was trying to do was to give everybody some sense of three-dimensionality. And that is true, that actually you do. The characters are not two-dimensional in the way that the setup might suggest. There are times in it which the tension is really genuinely oppressive. I had a message from Stuart Barr, who's a journalist I admire very much, but he'd seen it before and he said it was really something. And it didn't let me down, that thing. But it also, as I said, there is this sort of strong vein of absolutely jet black humour running, and also undercutting all that, this strange melancholia, which is partly added to by the soundtrack, which intersperses from all the sort of thrashy hardcore stuff, intersperses this with this kind of brooding, pulsing electronica, which makes you think to some extent of old John Carpenter scores. And there was an interview with the director in which he said it's not a Swiss watch, it's a sledgehammer. I think it's actually more subtle than that, but it's a movie which absolutely puts you through the ringer and does it with efficiency and clarity and a single-minded dedication to holding you in your seat and saying, watch this.